Hello everybody, this is Bobby Ratliff with Slate Creek Dulcimers again, and this is part 2 of the introduction video on how to build the Virginia Hogfiddle. The first video I went over with you the supplies you need, and I may have missed a thing or two, but anything you have questions about, just let me know. Some things will be on the sheet that maybe I didn't go over with, and if you want to email me or message me, just go ahead and do that and I'll explain it to you. But on the bottom of the sheet you can see I have assembly steps, so we'll go over that now. The first, number 1 assembly step is to glue the patches and strips and reinforcement things under the sound hole and along the sides and stuff. So I'll flip the camera over here and I'll go over that with you. So the first thing you'll need to do when you get your kit, I'll start with the sides, but in the first video I showed you the places that are marked on here, and I'll demo it on one side, and it'll be the same process for doing all of the reinforcement patches. But you simply put your reinforcement patch in the little drawn box on your piece, and well, first you put glue on it. I like to glue the reinforcement instead of gluing this, but you can do it either way. But you put some glue in the box, or put it on the reinforcement patch, lay it on the square, and take you a piece of masking tape, tape it down, and then you set you can probably do 2 at a time if you have a big enough book and a big enough piece of the foam. But you lay your foam on top of it, and then lay your book on top of that. And the reason you use the foam is because even if you had some kind of a clamp, it's really hard to clamp that evenly, such a thin patch, because that's barely thicker than a piece of paper, maybe probably thicker than that, but it's not as thick as a credit card. So it's easier to lay that foam on it, lay your book on top of that. So that's how you'll do your sides, and that's the first thing to do when you get your kit. Look at everything and make sure I sent you everything, and then glue your patches on your sides. You'll get 2 sides, and they'll have both sides will have the little boxes marked on it. The next thing you want to do is you can glue your sound hole patches next. You get 2 of those. You do them same way, just put glue on it, tape it down. You can probably go ahead and do both of these if you got a big enough book. If you got 2 or 3 books, I mean, it won't hurt to put 5 or 6 books on it. Just make sure you got a nice, smooth, clean surface to lay it on. Then glue it, tape it, lay your book on top of it. Once it's dried, just pull the tape off, throw it away. That's your sound hole patches. Do that, and then you'll need to glue your backing strip. And I've cut these strips they're about 10 inches long, but you need to, you see where I got that says stop, there's a line right there. Don't take it past that, because your peg head comes almost to that line. So you just glue that down the center. Glue one, let it dry, then add another piece, glue it, tape it down so it don't move on you, because these will move. They'll before I started taping them, I had trouble. I had to try to pull them off, and they're hard to get off once the glue sticks. But anyway you do that, I'll wait to the end on the other end. And you don't need a backing strip on the soundboard, because the fretboard will take care of that. And once you glue your backing strip, the next thing you'll need to do is to cut your sound hose. And like I mentioned in the first video, you see this is going to be your inside, so you'll have these patches on the inside, so it's hard to determine where they're at on the outside. So I made this little template. You'll cut that out, and it sets 4 inches from, I'll have a mark on the soundboard, and you slide that paper to that mark. You probably could do it without cutting it out if you wanted to, but if you want to cut it out, it might make it easier, it may not. But then that shows you where your sound hole will be. It shows you where your patch will be on the back side, so you won't miss it when you drill your sound hole or cut a sound hole out. So you'll do that. You do your sound holes next, after you glue your patches on. So after you've got your sound hose cut out, the third thing you need to do is dress your sound hose. And what I mean by that is, once you dress the sound hose, maybe roll up if you just drill a round sound hole, roll up a piece of sandpaper and just sand the inside of the hole. Or you can make you like this. Where did it go? Like I made this sanding stick, you can make you a really thin one. Another thing you could use to dress up your sound hose is maybe a fingernail file, and dress them up with a fingernail file if you don't have some store-bought files. Once you get your sound hose dressed up, got those cleaned up real good, the next thing you'll install is your kerfing. And the way you install the kerfing is you simply go around this line with your glue, run a small bit of glue all the way around. You don't have to put, I send full length kerfing, but if you want to do it in short sections, maybe a foot long, that's fine too. But you put what I call the teeth inward, and what that does is let the kerfing bend. And but you'll take a clothespin after you've run your glue. You'll set that piece of kerfing down, and you get it to the edge of the line. See, like that. And you put a clothespin on it. Keep it at the edge of the line. Come down a couple inches. Put another clothespin on it. And you just push it over to see, it bends easily. You push it over to your line. And you just keep doing that all the way to the end. I'm sure you get the idea. But you barely want to let your line show. I don't know if you can see that or not, but put it right up against the line where you can barely see the line. And what that will do, when you put the sides on, it'll give you just a little bit of overhang for your for it to have fiddle sides. Now if you don't want fiddle sides, what you'll do is just sand these edges down smooth with the sides. But I have the line drawn so it will have fiddle sides when you get done. Okay, so you'll need to put your kerfing on the the top, and then the back is the same way. I've got the kerfing line marked on it. Put all your kerfing on. That is step 4, is to install all your kerfing. Step 5 is to install the frets. That's where your hammer comes in. Like I showed in video 1, I'll send you a fretboard with pre-drilled fret holes, and you get your little staple frets, and you'll set them in the hose. I can't get that to show properly, but you set them in the hose and then just hammer them in. You need to, like I said in the first video, be sure that you have your fretboard on a surface that don't bounce, because when you see, the fretboard is hollow, so it would be easy to break it if it's bouncing around. So you need to get it on a good smooth surface and do a good job of installing the frets. The next thing you'll do is you'll glue the fretboard to the soundboard. Once you get your frets installed, this fretboard don't fit this soundboard, but I'll show you just for an idea. You want to get it even back here on the tail. Let me see if I can turn it. You don't want it being like that with an overhang. Get it as close as you can, and then, like I say, this one don't fit, but if you need to, you can simply take a piece of masking tape. Masking tape comes in handy, but this is not long enough, but wrap a piece all the way around both ends to hold it in place. Then you will, if you got some of these, about every couple inches, you'll clamp one of those. If you got you about 10 of those, all the way to the end. If not, lay it on a smooth surface and get everything adjusted good and set you a few books on top of it to get a good contact down through here and stuff. I usually put my glue, I don't put the glue on the soundboard. I usually put my glue around the fretboard, then I'll take my finger and I'll rub it down and kind of smooth it out so it won't have so much squeeze out. If you do get squeeze out, it's best to try to let that fretboard stay on there probably half an hour to 45 minutes, and then come back with something and just scrape those little bubbles of glue that squeezes out. Don't let them sit on there. If you let them sit on there for a few hours, they're going to get, you can remove them, but it'll be hard to remove them. So after you glue the fretboard to the soundboard, the next thing you'll need to do is you'll need to glue the peg head on. So it will basically go like this. And you'll need some way to clamp it to do that. And when you glue it on, that's where the straight edge comes in. You want to set your straight edge on this side and check the gap between, I don't know if I can hold all this or not, but check your gap right here, and then put your straight edge on this side. Do a dry run. Let me show you real quickly. Simply clamp it on. This is not working for me, but you get the idea. Hopefully glue it on, and then use your straight edge to lay down this side and then this side, and check your gap up here. If it's touching the straight edge on this side and then you have a big gap on that side, you know it's crooked. But it don't have to be perfect, but it looks better if you can get it perfect. So it'll still work whether you got it perfect or not, it being your first dulcimer. But just check your gap along the straight edge, and I'll go into that more detail when I actually put the dulcimer together. Once you let the glue dry, glue the peg head on, let it dry for half an hour or so, or 45 minutes to an hour. Then you can glue your tailpiece on. It'll go on like that. Then the next thing you'll do, once you glue your tailpiece on and it's dry for about an hour, you'll actually take the back and let me see if I can get it. You'll glue your back on to the rest of it. If I can show you. You'll glue your back on. Remember the fretboard will already be here, but you'll glue the back on. And then you need to prepare your sides to fit. And what you'll do with that is you'll take a piece of sandpaper, lay it on the table, and when you let me get this little dulcimer that's over here, to get a good fit, you don't want a gap between the top and the back and the sides. So I cut the sides out a little too wide. So to get them to fit in that slot that I've made right here, see there's a slot that it goes in. So to get it to fit, notice that's too tall. Let me see. Sticking out a little bit on the bottom. What you do, I usually count. I'll sand it like this on a flat surface with my sandpaper. I'll sand it about 10 strokes. Then I move back about 3 inches. I sand about 8 strokes. Then I move back about 3 inches again. And I sand about 6 strokes. Reason being, it puts a gradual taper on it when you step back about 3 inches. And once you get it, you keep test fitting it until you don't have, well, where it'll have the back and the top on, it won't go in till it fits. So you keep trying it. It's not hard to do, but it requires some patience, because if you get in a big hurry, you end up getting a gap. So you just keep test fitting it, putting it on, try it. If it don't fit, test. If it don't fit, sand it a few strokes, and just keep test fitting it till you get it to fit. Alright, the next, once you prepare your sides, it'll be time to glue the sides. And what you'll do is you'll start it in the tailpiece end first, and you'll bend it around the kerfing that you've glued on, and then you need to measure it up here. Well, I missed a step. Once you get it to fit in the slotted end, the tailpiece, then you need to bend it around, pre-fit it for the front to make sure. See where that line is? There'll be a step right there for your, I've not cut them in this peg head yet, but there'll be a step there for the other end of the side to go. And so you'll need to cut this to length. That's where your hobby saw or razor knife, whatever you use to cut it, you just simply mark you a mark on it and glue it. And you just do one side, fit one side, glue it on, then do the other. The next thing you'll do is you'll glue overlays. And I'll have little, I forgot to get those out, but I'll have little overlays. Once your side goes on, or once your back goes on, see, it'll only go to like right there. And so you have this little empty space right here. And so you want to fill that in. But I'll give you a couple little short pieces of wood that you'll glue right there. They'll only be that long, but they'll go right here. And you glue those on. That'll be your overlays. Then once you do your overlays, the next thing will be to glue your scroll buttons. And I'll demonstrate. You can do that several ways, but in the main video, in the construction video, I'll show that. Next thing, number 14, would be to sand and apply your finish. You just basically, you start out with 100 grit sandpaper. This is 120, but you start out with 100, then you go to 150, sand it off 150, then do the same thing with 220, and then the same thing with 320. The next thing you'll do is you'll install your nut, and I'll show you on this little dulcimer. That is called the nut that the strings go across. It won't sit on top like that. Let me show you another one. The nut will have a groove that it sets in, like this dulcimer does. And I'll have that already cut out. All you need to do is make sure that where you sanded your dulcimer, that you've not got it too skinny. You may need to sand the end of your nut, and then you just put your nut, put a drop of glue on the nut and put it in. Then you need to install the zither pins, and they'll look something like that. When you install them, you leave them about 1/4 inch of thread sticking out, but yours, even though yours will look different, it'll install the same as this type. And next thing you'll do is you'll install your string anchors, which is basically 3 or 4 nails, ever how many strings you want. And I'll have the hose pre-drilled for you. You just need to take a hammer and tap the nails in. And then 19 is you'll install the decorative scroll buttons with the tacks, whatever you call it. Those will go in the scroll button. Once you get that far, you'll put those in. That's pretty simple. Then you install the strings in the bridge, and I'll go over that in more detail. If you've ever strung a dulcimer before, you probably know. If you are a current owner of a dulcimer, it won't be too bad, but I've actually got a YouTube video already on how to install the strings on one of my hog fiddles. But you install the strings, and you really don't even have to. You can put your strings on and get them semi-tight, and then, because you'll have a floating bridge, it'll be similar to this. That's a piece of deer antler, but you'll just slide it, have your strings a little bit tight, slide it under them in this area, and then slide it back. And next thing you do is you adjust the intonation, and I won't go into detail on that because we're already at 24 minutes, but basically you have to move your bridge forward or backward until you get the note, the same note that a string is open, and the same note right here at your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th fret. It's got to have the same note there as it does open. And so to do that, you have to either slide this back, forward or backward until you get that perfect note that it has when it's open. And the next thing is playtime. You should be able to play it once you get the intonation set. Alright, already over 25 minutes, and I tried to make it short as I could. But anyway, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll get to make a kit for you and you'll get to make your own dulcimer. Later.